Ryan, a First Canadian.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for coming to West Vancouver and hearing our questions. I am Sim Shan from the north coast of British Columbia. I live here in this riding in West Vancouver. I'm a fisheries aquatic ecologist, and I have a Master of Science in Resource Management and a PhD candidate at UBC. This morning I started my day at 7:30 with my first meeting with two of the co-chairs for the Chinook Technical Committee and the Pacific Salmon Commission. Spent the day going through a series of meetings. In the afternoon I taught a class in First Nations forestry at UBC before coming here this evening. So I have a very actively engaged schedule. The reason I do what I do is because of my grandfather encouraging me to be a fisheries scientist to help our people. Your statement and comments regarding equality for all Canadians is something near and dear to every one of us as Canadians. And in an Aboriginal perspective, we seem to be asking for the recognition of an equality. And in a public profile, some people might perceive that as something extra other than other Canadians, when that's not the case. When we've got 80 to 90% unemployment rates in our populations, in our communities, when we've got communities that don't have access to clean water at all in these communities, and most of them are also remote and removed, and we depend on this system of transfer payments that clearly and has been demonstrated by my colleague, friend, author Simshan, author Calvin Helene in his book Economic Dependency Trap. We cannot continue like this any longer. So we have to come up with mechanisms that are going to provide us with access to resources that provides us with the revenue so we can start generating some of our own economy again and build up the wealth of the nation and be a contributing part of Canada, right? So my question to you is, are you prepared to help build the infrastructure that's going to be necessary to facilitate our engagement, active engagement in managing fisheries, in managing forestry, in managing what's going on the lands, particularly in mining and all these other elements that occur on the land, where we can help and monitor the environmental impacts, help mitigate the risk associated with that, make sure it's done properly, and be contributing to Canada.
Thank you for a great question. Thank you for your service to the Tsimshian people, and thank you for your expertise. You've had a busy day. I hope Dan may want to have a comment, because I know you worked very hard with the Squamish people, and we'll have some thoughts about this. Cut to the chase, we can't go on the way we are. Susanna and I, and I'm sure Scott has done this too, we travel constantly to First Nations communities, fly into First Nations communities. Here's what I see. I see the best generation of Aboriginal leadership ever, highly educated, highly dedicated to their communities. You'd be an example. And I see 80% unemployment. I see when I fly into some northern communities in Manitoba, I'm getting on the plane to go north, and guess what's coming off the plane? People in wheelchairs with diabetes. If you go to northwestern Ontario, the reserve communities have the highest incidence of adult diabetes of any place on earth. That is not in your picture of what this country is it? But that's a statistic that is true of this country, and it's not good enough. And I know dedicated people in the Aboriginal communities in northwestern Ontario who are working on the diabetes problem. I'm not saying we can't fix this. Of course we can fix this. But we can't go on the way we are. So what are you saying? You're saying we need, Aboriginal communities need access to resources. They need the capacity to protect the environments which they have lived in for thousands of years. You're absolutely right. We need to end this constant welfare dependency that demeans Aboriginal communities and creates resentment in non-Aboriginal communities. How do we get there? Some of this has to do with getting us beyond the Indian Act. Chief Atleo talks about that. We can't regulate relations between citizens in Canada according to what is really a classic piece of colonial legislation. So Sean Atleo and other Aboriginal leaders have pointed the ways to getting some legislation, and I proposed this when I first ran for the leadership of my party 5 years ago. Create legislation in which those Aboriginal communities that are ready to do so, this would not be compulsory, but those that are ready to do so would have a legislative instrument that would allow them to create a new relationship with the Crown outside the Indian Act, with powers of self-government and responsibilities of self-government that go with it, because that's the other thing. A lot of Aboriginal communities get irresponsible leadership. And they want to have accountable, responsible leadership where they know where the money's going, how it's being spent, all that kind of stuff. And I think we can only do that when we create a legislative instrument in the Parliament of Canada that allows Aboriginal communities to create forms of self-government that create a completely new relationship with the Crown, based on treaty relationships, above all, to make sure that we honor and respect the treaty relationship. But I'm optimistic here, because what I'm saying to you is what Sean Atleo is saying to the Canadian people. We've got leadership that's got the capacity to get us there. We've got you, for example. So this is the next unmet challenge. It's the principal moral challenge that this country has to face going forward, and it will be a huge priority of a Liberal government. I don't know whether Dan wants to come in on this.
It's also a great economic opportunity. Teresa is a friend of mine, and I've done some work with her colleagues up north on a volunteer basis, and we have mutual friends. There are some, as you know, significant legal and constitutional impediments here that Mr. Ignatieff recognizes we've got to deal with. We're dealing with some archaic legislation here that clearly fundamentally needs to be reformed. We're also dealing with land uncertainty. So it's one thing to reform the Indian Act and to allow these folks on reserve, and those other parcels of land, to have the right to self-government in whatever form that takes. But there's some in British Columbia, for example, some much broader land certainty questions that have to be dealt with. Very complex issues. But they have to be dealt with, because Don Chapman was talking about lost Canadians. We're dealing here with generations of lost Canadians. That's not only morally unacceptable, as Mr. Ignatieff has said, but it's a lost economic opportunity for us. And we should not, as people who want to lead the country, allow the population where the demographic growth is the highest of any population or any group in the country, to allow continuing the state of economic, social dependency. It's not good for them. It's very bad for Canada. We've got to do an awful lot better, but we need some fundamental reform and the kind of leadership that's going to require to make that happen.